What's up, everybody? This is Sean Ferrer with the Culturally Woke Republican. This is Friday's edition. I believe it is April 9th. We all know from anybody that's watched my videos, I don't really know what date it is because I just work constantly. So, that being said, I'm assuming it's Friday, April 9th, because I think I just got paid. So, anyway, I have 5 really good topics for you guys. Once again, I do want to thank all of my subscribers. I think that it's really awesome that you guys actually like to hear what I have to say. If you like this video, please do. Like the video, subscribe, you know what I mean? Hit that notification bell, and that way every single time I do this podcast 3 times a week. So, if you like what you hear, well, guess what? I'm going to cover the facts and nothing but the facts. Now, in this video, my last 2 topics, I am going to give you basically my political opinion on those two topics. I believe it's important for any of my listeners to know where I stand on these 2 subjects, but we're not there yet. Let's start off with today's headlines. Okay, Joe Biden, the houseplant, came out of the basement today and basically gave us his speech on how he's going to make executive orders, which, at this point, how many executive orders can this man actually do? He's done more executive orders than any other president in history in the amount of time that he's been in office. So, that being said, when he says he's going to sign executive orders, everybody on the planet is going, no shit. Yeah, we didn't see that one coming. But this time, of course, he's going after your Second Amendment. And there is where I disagree. Okay, I believe in the Bill of Rights. And I believe in the First and Second Amendment more than any other amendment in our Constitution. Okay, first of all, the Second Amendment is not meant to, for people that hunt. Or, it was never passed that way. It was never built that way. It was not something that, all of a sudden, the founding fathers turned around and said, well, we might want to have to protect those hunting rifles. No. It's to show that you have a force to fight against government tyranny. You can read that. It's in the Constitution. I know. I've read it. Okay, so let's go further. So Joe Biden decides that he's going to sign executive orders on gun control. And I'm letting you know right now, all this is a show. Okay? Joe Biden does he licks his finger and he puts his finger up in the wind. And he sees which way it's blowing that day and he goes, you know what? That's the way I'm going. Okay? Because in his campaign, he kept saying, I'm not going to take away your guns. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to fight the Second Amendment. But now he's signing executive orders. And this is the reason why it's wordplay. Okay, the idea that he's signing executive orders because the Colorado gunman, the shooter, okay, had what do they call it? A brace. He had a brace, a specific brace for this handgun that basically strapped to his arm, which is basically really meant for handicapped people to not have to take the same amount of kick to be able to fire a handgun. Okay, that's really what it's actually made for. But, Joe Biden comes out on press release and says, well, this makes the gun more lethal. Still trying to figure that out. I'll let you know when I get to it. Because last time I checked, the gun still had the same caliber bullet with the same ejection port, with the same amount of gunpowder that was in the bullet. The same firing pin, all of it. Now, if you wanted to make the argument on saying that maybe the accuracy might be a little bit better, all right. I could kind of half go with that. But at the same time, I'm not going to full go with that because, have you ever really tried to fire a gun with it strapped to your arm? I don't know. I've fired a lot of weapons in my life. But the idea of firing a weapon that's strapped to my arm does not make me think that I would have better accuracy, nor does it make me think that I would be able to move as fast. with that weapon. So, as I said, this is all a show. This is Joe Biden coming out of the basement, being the houseplant, and getting on the mic and going, look, I'm going to give something to you leftist idiots so that way you get off my back. And the Republicans on the other side are like sitting back going, seriously? Really? Okay. And then in this bill, or in this executive order, okay, there's also a subtitle listed as ghost guns. Okay, and the reason why is because, human society has reached the level of technology that we have 3D printers. So that was his idea. The problem with this is what it does is ghost guns are actually listed as guns that you buy a gun kit. It gets shipped to you, and you put the gun together yourself. That's why they're called ghost guns. Because you don't know who put them. I mean, yeah, of course you probably have a paper trail or something like that. But either way, that's the label. Okay? But he threw in like 3D printers in there and different stuff. I mean, Joe Biden's usually all over the place anyways. I mean, if you listen to any one of his speeches or any one of his press conferences, you're just kind of like, where are we going here, Joe? Someone speed the teleprompter up. I don't know if he's actually got it all yet. Okay? The idea of the President of the United States actually thinking in the back of his feeble mind that attacking the Second Amendment in the United States is going to be definitely the way to go. Like I said, this is a man that is in presidency. He was there to put on a show. That's why he's there. Okay? There is no logic behind him. He's being led around by Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and a whole bunch of other guys, where they're just basically leading him back to his bed so he can watch Matlock. And then, you know what I mean, he leaves his bed and he comes out to the Oval Office. He doesn't know where his fucking pen is. You know what I mean? It's just a mess. Okay, but let's switch gears. The border crisis. Yesterday, we actually just hit a record. Not a good record, but a record. Okay? Of the most people that have illegally crossed the border in 1 year, okay? Which I understand Joe Biden's only been president for, 2 months, or a little over 2 months. But in 1 year, ever in U.S. history, okay? Here's the kicker. The percentage from when Trump was still president to when Joe Biden was inaugurated went up 78%. I'll say that mathematical equation one more time just so everybody hears it. Okay? From the time that President Trump was president and he had his border policies implemented, okay, then Joe Biden was inaugurated. He signed executive orders ending the border wall, ending all of that and this and that, just like that. Okay? 78%. You tell me who went terribly wrong. Because, I mean, I don't know. At this point, I'm like sitting back going, really? 78%. So, in other words, what that means is, if it's 78%, well, if we're going to get to 100, so what's that? 22? 22%. So it was 22% when Trump was in office, and then it went up 78% to get to 100. I mean, this is just college math. Anyway, the point that I'm getting at is the idea that, they're not thinking this through, or they didn't think it through in the beginning, and they're definitely not thinking it through now. And Jen Psaki, every single time she gets up in a press conference, I watch religiously, because I want to see how easily this woman can lie. As I've said in my other podcast, this woman can bullshit easier and better than my ex-wife. And that's an achievement. If you can do that, whew, you got one hell of a career in politics. If you can actually bullshit that well. Okay? What I think is even funnier about that is Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, okay, goes up in front of the media, and they ask her, what is it that you plan on doing about the border wall, seeing as how you guys stopped construction on it as soon as, President Biden was inaugurated. And you want to talk, man, I'm telling you, this woman is talented. She sidesteps this shit like a ballerina stepping around shit in a yard. Like, it's baffling how easy and well she can do this. Okay? Because she comes out, and what it is they don't want to admit that they're about to basically take some of Trump's border policies and reanimate them. And the reason why they're going to do that is because they worked. So, she jumps around the question at first, and then goes, well, at the moment, the border wall construction is paused. Okay? She don't want to go full board saying that, no, he signed an executive order stopping all border wall construction, period. Done. Not paused, ended. Okay? When you sign an executive order and the President of the United States, guess what? It's over. That's it. It's done. Unless Congress really comes out of the woodwork and tries to go against you and veto that, which they have the power to do. But they have to, there's so many votes, and not only that, but the House and the Senate right now are controlled by Democrats, so good luck on that one. So, like I said, she dances around the question. And then she says to the press, well, there's already been funds allocated for certain construction of the wall. So, we haven't particularly decided yet whether we're going to allow those funds to be allocated to continue the construction of the wall. Let me rephrase all of this for her and say that means they're going to start building the wall in certain sections. Because they already know the funds are already there, so they don't actually have to procure them. Okay, so therefore they're able to go, you know what? We might as well do this. It might actually ease some stress on us. That's all that meant. Like I said, the Democrats at this point, their own constituents are actually starting to side against them. Like I said on my last podcast, the rabbit hole is deep, and they just keep spiraling the rim, just keep going down and down and down, hoping that maybe, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. Or, something might be great in the future, or so, I don't know. I don't know where they're going. As a Republican conservative, I basically just get to sit back and go, well, I'll just pay attention to the facts and go on that. Now, I'll be right back with more news. Definitely, we're going to talk about the George Floyd murder case. And then we have two more topics, like I stated, that are going to be really cool, and I'm just basically going to let it loose on both of those subjects, and I think you guys are going to like it. I'll be right back. See ya. All right, everybody, I'm back. Culturally woke Republican, and I want to start off by saying, okay, let's just go on the facts. Okay, because as I always say, facts don't care about your feelings. So a little quote from Ben Shapiro. The George Floyd murder case, okay, was a tragic experience. I'm going to say that, and then that way everybody on the left or the right can at least say, well, at least he has compassion. Okay, that being said, the prosecution at this point is seriously lacking. Like, they're falling apart. And the reason why is because in the United States of America, okay, we have this thing in our court systems. It's called reasonable doubt. Okay, which means that if you're going to charge someone in this country with murder 1, 2, or 3, okay, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that this person committed this crime. You can't just be like, well, you know what, we think he's guilty, so therefore it's done. That doesn't work. Okay? The prosecution at this point is losing ground. Okay? And the reason why is because most of their key witnesses that they've already called are actually doing more for the defense than they are for the prosecution. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but I've been represented by lawyers. And I kind of, know what they're going to do, and, we talk about it before the court case, things like that. Now, basically what the prosecution has done at this point is they're doing what I call a play on words. Okay? What they're doing is they're just changing the wording or the verbiage of what they're trying to say, what they're trying to prove. Okay? And look, if the man's guilty, let him be guilty, go to prison for the rest of his life, fine. Okay? But when you got the police chief testifying against one of his officers, and then all of a sudden they start to get shown body cam footage from different angles other than the video that everybody saw, okay? And then he's asked questions on the idea of, okay, well, from this angle of the video, where would you say that the officer's knee is on George Floyd? And this is a witness for the prosecution. And he actually has to answer honestly, and because he's under oath. And he says, okay, like I said, a play on words. Okay, basically, like I said, when you have that police chief and he's standing on the stand and he's shown that video, and then all of a sudden, the defense on cross-examine, okay, asks him, where do you see the officer's knee on George Floyd? And he says, well, his knee is actually mainly on his shoulder. Well, that would really rule out the idea of asphyxiation, right? Wouldn't it? But you know what? Here's another kicker. George Floyd didn't die from asphyxiation. George Floyd died due to the amount of drugs that were in his system. His toxicology report came back. He had more methamphetamine and fentanyl in his system to kill 3 horses. Not one, but 3. Now I understand the man was 6'5" and 240 pounds. He was a big boy. But at the same time, I mean, really? 3 horses. But you know what? The prosecution doesn't want to take any of that in consideration because their whole entire idea or outlook, plan, okay, is to convict Shiven on he murdered George Floyd because he was a racist and he was a substandard police officer and, he hated him and he wanted to commit bodily harm. The reason why I say this is because the 3 charges that they're trying to charge this man with, which I think is really funny because they could have charged him with a whole bunch of other stuff and probably been able to prove that in court. But no, they chose murder 1, 2, and 3. Now, murder 1, everybody knows, is capital murder. Okay, that means he would have had to premeditate the murder of George Floyd. He had planned in his head, he knew what he was going to do, he did it, and that was it. As far as that's concerned, if that's actually proven, well then, you know what, at this point I'll be like, you know what, throw away the key, execution. As far as I'm concerned, I believe in capital punishment. Get to it. And then murder 2 and 3 are even going to be hard for the prosecution to even prove. For the simple fact that, 1, murder 2, if knowledge serves me, I mean, like I said, I'm no lawyer, I'm no judge or anything of that nature. But as far as I'm concerned, murder 2 means that Shiven would have had to been committing a felony, and in the process, George Floyd died. That's murder 2. I think that's murder 2. It's either murder 2 or murder 3. But either way, I'm still right either one. Okay, the point that I'm getting at with this type of a statement is the idea that the idea or the process that the prosecution is taking in this case is not winning them any brownie points. You know what I mean? It's not. I mean, I'm hoping. Look, in a court of law, I basically, in a high-profile case like this, I root for both sides. Where I'm like, I want to see who wins. I saw it with OJ. That was funny. I watched that when I was a kid. You know, so it's like one of those things where I just sit back and go, well, let's see what happens. It's a court of law. Now, the other point that I wanted to bring at is a Black Lives Matter activist recently took to TikTok, okay, and made a video, which has gone viral apparently. I don't know. I'm not on Twitter, so I don't really know. But, and basically she comes out and says, look, and this is just it in a nutshell. I'm not going to repeat or, quote her or anything of that nature, because as far as I'm concerned on this show, I don't quote hate groups. I don't quote people that deal with hate. I'm not a person that deals with hate, so therefore I don't do it. But what she is saying in a nutshell is she's a domestic terrorist, and that if Black Lives Matter doesn't get the outcome that they're looking for in this type of trial, cities are going to burn. Just like they did for 8 months out of a year. Which, nobody's held accountable. Nobody's held accountable. None. You can just burn down a city, apparently. If you're on the left, you can burn down anything you want. You can riot anytime you want. It is completely acceptable. But if you're on the right, God forbid. Anyway, the point that I'm getting at, like I said, is just the idea. Think about videos like that being brought out on TikTok. Okay? And now think about the people in the jury. That, yeah, they might be closed off in a hotel room or something like that, but they still got a phone. They see this stuff. You don't think that jury, even if Shivan is, deemed to be acquitted of these charges, because they've only charged him with 3 charges, so it's not like they can add other charges or something like that. So if there's reasonable doubt in all 3 of these charges, the jury should acquit him. Okay, well, if they acquit him, you don't think that now, because of this media frenzy, that there's biased or fear, basically making their decision for them? You don't think that that's actually happening? Please. I wouldn't want to be on that jury. I'll tell you that. I've been called to jury duty. I've been denied every single time. There's a reason for it. For the simple fact that I know exactly what to say. I would not want to be on that jury. I actually feel for those people that are on that jury. Because they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. If they acquit him, they're damned. If they don't acquit him, they're still damned. That right there just makes you go, wow. Gives you a whole new meaning to the expression, stuck between a rock and a hard place. What do? Rock, paper, scissors? Is that how it all works in the jury chamber? When they all go back there to make their final decision? All right, rock, paper, scissors. Shoot. There you go. Man goes to prison for nothing, or he doesn't go to prison, and guess what? Minneapolis and probably many other cities, many other states around the country are going to go up in flames. All because this is a thing of the left that they love this narrative. If you're white and it has to do with a black man, you're racist. No matter what. It's the way it works. Like, I live in like a neighborhood, and I've said this on my show, that it's basically like 50-50 in this neighborhood, of whites to blacks. I've gotten to the point where I don't know what my neighbors might react to me as. And I'm actually a pretty nice guy. Like, I'm very approachable. You can talk to me. I have no problem. I'm very respectable. I'm also very well educated. So, that being said, where is all this animosity coming from? It's because they're trying to push a narrative to separate us. the way it works. If they separate us, guess what? They win. Don't let them win. All right? Now, let's move on to the other two topics. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to take a break. Okay? And I'm going to be right back. And like I stated, I had two special topics that I was basically just going to speak my mind. This had nothing to do with mainstream media or the news or anything of that nature. I want to let you know where my conservative views stand on these two topics. Okay? I'm Sean Ferrer. I'll be right back. What's up, everybody? I'm back. Sean Ferrer, culturally woke Republican. As I promised in the beginning of this podcast, I did state that I was going to share my conservative views on two subjects. Let's take the first one. I always love putting this middle finger up like that. Let's take the first one. My stand on abortion. Now, as a Catholic conservative, okay, and I don't really like to bring religion into any of this. The reason why is because I can definitely prove my point without religion. Okay, but because I was raised as a Catholic, okay, it goes against all Catholic doctrine. The idea to, one, commit murder, because that's all abortion is. It's murder. If you actually watched videos of how abortions are actually performed, you would think, honestly, it's the most barbaric thing that you can do to the human body. Like, I mean, it's hard. They cut their arms off, their legs off, and pull them out slowly. I mean, it's very horrific. Ben Shapiro actually goes up in front of college campuses, and every single time he does a speech about this specific topic, he actually brings a slideshow, and it's horrific. It just to think about it makes me sick. Okay, but all right, let's put the Catholicism aside. Okay, first of all, in order to justify abortion, you have to decide where you lie. I mean, because if you say that it's a human life at the beginning of conception, you're basically a Republican, basically. Okay, but if you say, I mean, like Hillary Clinton, you know, she has no problem with, you know, aborting a baby like a week before it's born. You know, that's completely okay to the left, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. They want to fight against capital punishment to stop executions in prisons, but they have no problem with killing a fetus. They have no problem with killing a baby, period. 1 week before a baby is born, that's a baby. That baby could have probably been born 2 months before that and still survived as a preemie, and it was a baby. But the left doesn't think that way. The left is all about, oh, well, it's pro-choice, and, you know, it's a woman's body, and this and that. Okay, let me go on this fact. I don't care what you do with your body. As a woman, I'm letting you know right now, you can do whatever you want with your body. I care about the baby living inside of you. I don't believe in murder. I mean, trust me, I think we've all had those moments, but, you know, I've been married, so we've all had those moments. That being said, I don't believe in murder, and I definitely don't believe in the aspect of murdering babies. What's wrong with people? I mean, is this like, you know, I always think to myself, like, going, you know what, is there like some underlying conspiracy theory that I'm not seeing or something like that? Like this is population control or something like that? I mean, think about it this way, okay? Planned Parenthood kills 200,000 babies a year. That's a year. Okay? Now, everybody always says, well, if you make abortion illegal, well, there'll be so many other, you know, there'll be so many illegal abortions. Well, I would imagine that if you make something that's so prevalent and so common in the United States illegal, yeah, there's probably going to be an increase of illegal abortions. I mean, that's just common sense. Okay, but let me say this. Say there's 50,000 illegal abortions in the United States after the law is passed. Well, that means you just saved 150,000 lives. Think about that. I'll take the ratio. I'll take those numbers. Those are good numbers. And I don't have to, tell you that I went to college or anything like that to be able to see that those numbers are good. So, that was one. Here's my other one. This one's fun. Because I've actually been to college, and I know what it's like to be on college campus, or at least I did back in, 1999, 98, 97, you know what I mean? Late 90s. Okay, but I want to go on the subject of safe spaces, triggers, and microaggressions. Okay? First of all, in this type of world, the way we live, with social media and, so many different, blatant things, horrible blatant things that you can watch online all day long. I know, but I actually watch them. Okay? How is anybody triggered? Explain that to me. I want to know. I really do. That baffles me. I mean, especially, my generation isn't triggered. My generation is, I'm Generation X. Okay? We're not triggered. You wonder why? Because we grew up with, Archie Bunker and the Jeffersons. We grew up with, offensive shit. Really offensive shit. You won't even see this kind of stuff on mainstream TV these days. Yeah. Have you ever heard of a comedian named Andrew Dice Clay? Yeah. Listen to him for a minute. Let me know how you work out afterwards. You'll be smoking cigarettes and thinking to yourself, I'm screwing the girl at the bank. You know what I mean? All right, let me name a couple other ones from my generation, okay? George Carlin, one of the greatest comedians of all time, always was funny with logic. Okay? In my generation, if you grew up listening to that man, okay, he wasn't a Democrat, he was a libertarian, which I have no problem with the libertarians because they're not liberals. Liberals are a completely different left side of the wing, and it's just, yeah. But libertarians are basically, they can be conservative libertarians. So I have seen that, which at first I had to really do some studying on, and I was kind of like, that sounds like an oxymoron, but okay, we'll go with it. All right. But how are you triggered? Literally, we've safeguarded everything. There's signs on the sides of boxes that all I keep thinking to myself is, let's just take all those warning labels off and let the problem sort itself out. Because, at this point, all the stupid people would die. They'd be drinking bleach when Trump turned around and said, oh, but maybe you want to just drink bleach and get rid of the virus. Are you people serious? You really thought he was serious? This is brain damage at the fifth power.